like I have a busy life. When it's time to actually like watch something, I'm usually so exhausted that just the effort of like deciding what to watch is like too much. So it's just kind of like I see something pop up, and I saw like Happy Days pop up on the thumbnail,
yeah.
and I'm like, okay, let me watch it. And so I saw, and it started with season 2. I wanted to watch from season 1, but for some reason it starts with season 2. So I started with season 2, and it was like it was the perfect thing.
It hit the spot, Tom. Like, so I've seen a shitload of Happy Days. Just like at starting at my grandmother's house,
Yeah.
it was always on television. Like I think I saw that, like that's like one of my top 5 shows that was just on.
Yeah, it like I mean I grew up with Happy Day, like the 80s version of Happy Days. So like, you know, the 80s, like, you know, Tom Hanks having his being a guest star on Happy Days and stuff. Like those were like the episodes I was watching like new like at night, but at the same time, you know, during the day, like afternoon or whatever, you turn it on and it's like the older episodes from like the 70s and stuff. And there were like, you know, what Happy Days turned into, live studio audience and all this kind of stuff. But then in syndication, you could see like the ones before that where it was like a one camera shoot. It's like shot on film.
Yeah.
It's shot like a movie. And so then it really does look like a, you know, prequel or whatever to American Graffiti. You know, like it's got the same look, the same, and you know, it's got more of that 50s feel, and it's got more of like that diner feel where like it would have like the waitresses on roller skates coming up to your car, the drive-in,
the obsession, like the 50s obsession in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I was trying to count back, like, so in this, it was 74 was this season, and I'm like, they can still capture it because it would have been like, we're trying to capture 2001 or something like that. In season 2, I didn't realize that he had another brother.
Right, he has Chuck. And from what I understand, there were 2 different guys who played Chuck. But that was like, because I knew about Chuck, because Chuck, like, you know, jumped the shark and all that stuff. Like, you know, Happy Days has, you know, become sort of mythologized or whatever. And the idea of there being an older brother, Chuck, who disappears from the show kind of became legend. So I knew about it that way. But I didn't realize he was still there in season 2. I thought by season 2, they had chucked Chuck. But like Chuck is like emblematic of in shows where they kind of tinker with their continuity a little bit as it goes on and streamline and hope the audience doesn't notice. So like his brother, Richie Cunningham's older brother, Chuck, disappears and is never mentioned again. They had like a Happy Days reunion that was maybe like 5 years after the show ended, or, you know, so it would have been, I guess, like 1990. Like the show ended maybe in like 85 or something. So it's 1990 and they're having this Happy Days reunion. And then Tom Bosley, like, you know, and it's just they're interviewing them and stuff. And Tom Bosley is like, Chuck, is that you? Like he started, you know, like as a goof acting, because like, you know, so like they were aware of it and they did, you know.
Somebody needs to do fan fiction where he was abducted by aliens.
Right. Yeah. What happened to Chuck?
And like they or like an episode where a Fox Mulder visits Richie, an older Richie Cunningham, to investigate the mysterious disappearance of his brother Chuck.
Like I mean. When I was a kid, like we used to dream in Happy Days, and like we would have dreams that we were like in Happy Days or whatever.
It's amazing.
It was like such a big deal. Like it was just like, you know, and Jim Rugg talks about how when he was a kid, he had this Hulk bowl of cereal that had a picture of the Hulk on it, and so he'd like stare at that picture every day and stuff. And then like all these years later, he's doing Hulk Grand Design. And when I was a kid, we had the Fonz cup. It was this plastic mug with the Fonz on it going like this. And
that's
like
amazing.
We would fight over it every morning of like who would get the Fonz mug.
We had like McDonald's. We eat off the McDonald's. Those remember the classic McDonald's plates?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. But yeah, we had those when I was a kid. The clown plates.
You would want your specific like design and stuff.
We when I was a kid, my parents had these friends and they had a daughter, and like she wasn't allowed to watch TV, so she had like no pop culture understanding whatsoever. And like we had those McDonald's plates with like Ronald McDonald and Grimace on them, and she she said, "May I have a clown plate?" Like, we're like, "What are you talking about? That's not a clown.
Yes.
That's Ronald McDonald." Like, how do you, like, it didn't even occur to us that Ronald McDonald was a clown. He's just Ronald McDonald, you know? And you're saying a clown, like, you don't recognize this guy? What the heck?
You're like a mobster guy.
Yeah, what the fuck?
You're like, you show some respect. It's Ronald McDonald you're talking to.
Well, like,
I'm like, excuse me, can I have a clown plate?
Yeah, to this day, I call them clown. You know,
It's amazing.
You call them clown plates. You know, in reference to that.
What did you say?
So,
now the clown plate.
May I have a clown plate?
Look, get a load of this fucking guy. Dance that clown plate over
that clown plate
over the
So,
spider.
But yeah, like Happy Days was just, and so it was so much fun revisiting. Like, I haven't seen those like filmed. Like, I've seen, you know, every now and then on MeTV, like I'll see like a happy, like the one I saw on MeTV maybe like a year ago was when the Fonz dies and they have the funeral to him and stuff. And it like, it's like way past Jump the Shark. And it was like hilarious. Like, I was dying laughing just because, like, I can't believe this is what TV used to be. You know, like, I can't believe that this used to be like, you tune it in
and that was on there. It's amazing.
It was a 2-parter. And like that
shit.
Richie Cunningham's going to meet the Fonz. Like, we see the Fonz go into the building. It's like you know, it's like a Robert De Palma movie or something. The Fonz goes into the building, and then Richie's like chasing after him, like, "No, Fonz, don't!" And then the building explodes.
It's like the beginning of Lethal Weapon 3 or something. Like that.
Yeah.
And then I always thought, like, you know, the Fonz is like super cool,
right?
But then when you get, it was like, I can't remember the point where I saw like what's his name, Winkler, like outside of the Fonz, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a bummer. Like, oh wait, the Fonz is like, he went out of his way to let you know that he's a nerd.
Yeah,
it was, you know. And I think he overplayed his hand.
that's what I was trying, because he like really was leaning in thick to that, and I was like, oh man.
So like watching this season 2, where it's before it jumps the shark, you know, it's like before the show just becomes a complete cartoon, and the Fonz, you can already tell he's breakout character. Everybody loves it. He's got the leather jacket. He's not wearing the windbreaker. First couple episodes in the series, he has a windbreaker. He wasn't allowed to wear a leather jacket. By this point, he's got the leather jacket, but he's still like peppered through the episode. It's not like the Fonzie show. It's still like the adventures of Richie Cunningham, and Ron Howard is really good in it. He is like a really good actor in this.
He's great. Like, he's so awesome, and I even like the his compadre
Ralph Malph and
what's his name?
Potsy Weber, Anson Williams, and it is kind of cool. Like, it is kind of cool seeing, because they were probably like 28 or something, you know, like when because like as the show goes on, it's like the whole premise of them being like high school kids gets so ridiculous. But like at least there, it's like, okay, you can almost.
He's like a senior, and he's putting like Rogaine in his hair.
Well, doesn't Ralph Malph look like he was like born middle aged?
Yeah, they're like he's anywhere from like 20 to 60.
Yeah,
like Ron Howard, Richie, he's like, I'm gonna graduate, Dad, and he's like, wow, you're he's like, I'll be down in a second. I'm putting my toupee on.
He does, like, you do see his hair thin as the series goes on. Yeah, the Fonz is like sprinkled through it. And then there was this episode that I always remembered, and I don't know, like, I didn't watch enough into it this time around, but I don't know if he comes back. But like, there's the episode where the Fonz has like a mini-me. He has his like little cousin, and it's very bizarre. Like, it's a little disturbing.
I do like the gimmicks the Fonz screws around. Like, I'm gonna be really watching this whole like. Yeah. I'm going down a Happy Days rabbit hole.
Well, because it's like, you know, when they had the Fonz jump over a shark on water skis, that's where the show went bad. But it's like, it's season 2, and he's already got like this little guy, like he's got this nephew who dresses like him, and hey, it's me, Spike.
That's so fucking funny.
I guess it doesn't count as jumping the shark though, because like the next episode kind of like maintains its integrity. It's not, you know, it's like if it has I think if it has a lasting effect, then you know. But the other thing is like the film stock in that era. So it's like it's the 70s pretending to be the 50s and that era. And yet there's that horror episode. That episode where they're in a haunted house. I was scared watching because again, I'm pretty tired. I'm watching this stuff at night.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like getting a little and I was
Me
like,
too.
what is Richie gonna find in this place?
I was getting scared and like you know, it's probably like ripped from the head. Like Halloween was probably like could have been.
Well, this is before Halloween because Halloween's what 1980,
70 something.
70.
Like, this is 74. Definitely earlier. Definitely
before
earlier.
Halloween. But the film stock, the acting, the sort of like youth of the characters and stuff, like it could turn into a slasher movie at any moment. Like it looks. It's aesthetically like a slasher, just even a regular episode looks like a slasher movie. It kind of has that like vintage look to it. And then that one in particular.
I was getting scared too, Tom.
Yeah, it gets, the horror is pretty, and the thing of it being kind of like they're having a party and people are playing pranks and having like fake ghosts and monsters and stuff like that. And there might, there's some hint of maybe sex or something. So it's like, it's the whole, slasher movie setup right there.
I was really luxuriating in all the vintage decorations. I love those classic Halloween decorations. And probably one of the scariest moments was when they opened the coffin. There's a spread of cold cuts.
Yeah.
And there was no, like, condiments or like I was searing it on there was this like dry wheat bread.
Well, it's supposed to be the 50s, so like it's not like ranch dressing doesn't exist yet.
they weren't even putting a top piece on the sandwich. I was like, you monster. I was like, oh, there's no mayo for it. That Wonder Bread you could use to like build like a wall with.
Now, something I'm wondering, because like they have the opening of the show, and then it goes into the Sunday. It's got like a record needle going down, and like in a jukebox, and there's like Sunday, Monday, Happy Days. Now, I remember, I thought that the Sunday, Monday, Happy Days opening came later. Like I thought that because the first season is Bill Haley and the Comets' Rock Around the Clock. The needle comes down and it's Rock Around the Clock. And I thought that's what it was like. That's what it was for like all those like film seasons. And then when it became like in front of a live studio audience,
then it switched
to the Sunday, Monday, Happy Days theme, the Happy Days theme song. But I mean, and I wonder if maybe, for streaming, they were the rights for like Bill Haley and the Comets, if they just kind of dubbed
that makes
Rock Around,
sense.
Happy Days over.
I love that song.
Yeah,
one of the best themes.
Well, it felt like, as a kid watching and comparing, like you could tell the difference. Even as a kid, you could tell the difference in quality. And just you'd watch the reruns in the afternoon, and you'd hear Bill Haley and the Comets Rock Around the Clock, and it's like, oh yeah, this is this is a real show, and the stuff that. The other stuff is like junk,
Yeah, and I forgot about the film switch that you talked about. I'm going to look out for that because I want to go back and start from season 1.
Well, yeah, because in season 2, there's like an episode where Richie Cunningham becomes a radio DJ. And he becomes Richie the C, like Murray the K. And he's like, he gets some shades, and he's... got his patter and stuff, but like also like Arnold's, the restaurant Arnold's, I don't think they've cast Arnold yet. Okay. So Arnold's kind of this like off-screen mystery character, and he's like supposed to be real grumpy, like old man Arnold and stuff like that. And then later on he's cast as Pat Morita. So I don't think that's happened yet. I think like Arnold is this mystery, which I didn't remember. I thought Arnold was there from like day one, and then Al comes in.
I didn't remember that Pat Morita was on Happy Days until I saw the Buddy Holly music video from Weezer, and he's in it. And I was like, is Pat Morita in fucking Happy Days?
Yeah, he was. He was
94.
He was Arnold from Arnold's, but Al, like, he was replaced maybe a couple seasons in by Al, Al buys Arnold's or whatever. That Weezer video is, because it was like...
Spike Jonze directed that.
It was like in the 90s, it's like, can you believe Happy Days existed?
Yeah.
And that it was like the number one show. So like, yeah, that video, it's like so hilarious just seeing those and seeing
Fonzie does this dance where he does like the Henry Winkler, little spry, like
he does his dance, and then
Ivy League
Ron Howard is playing the saxophone, and like really going in.
It's a great video.
Yeah, because on the show there would be episodes where like where he would play the sax and he'd play like I think it would always be like yakety yak. Don't talk about.
When you mentioned the radio station, I fucking love sitcom tropes.
Mm-hmm.
Like every sitcom, there's always like Full House. There was an episode where Joey and Jesse become radio DJs.
Yeah,
I love. It's like, they were the Rush Hour renegades.
Because like Seinfeld kind of did away with that. Like after Seinfeld, it was passe. Like it was
no camping episode.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a camping.
Yeah,
episode.
you couldn't do that stuff anymore. So yeah, it is.
I want to get back to basics. It's like a fucking camping or a weird bottle episode where everyone's stuck in the basement or something.
There is a bottle episode of Happy Days where somebody robs. I mean, it's always the same sort. Somebody robs the house and then makes Richie and Ralph Malph and Potsy like locks them in the closet. And then they need like Fonzie to come to the rescue. But yeah, they spend the whole episode like in the closet.
They're like, I mean, that's a real bargain, like a money saver. Mm-hmm. Family Matters, where Carl, like they get stuck down the basement and it's flooding.
We gotta do a Family Matters episode because Family Matters is kind of
Perfect Strangers.
Family Matters is like the twin to Happy Days because it like hits the same tropes because Happy Days has Chuck who disappears from the show, and then Family Matters had like there was like a daughter, there was like a middle child or something, there was a daughter who disappears from the show, and then they both have a Fonz, like Urkel is the Fonz, so they so we'll have to do a Family Matters episode, but like
I can't wait.
At a certain point in Happy Days, it's almost like they forget it's the 50s. It runs so, but they're like, let's just forget about that gimmick. Like it still supposedly takes, but there's 80s fashions and stuff. But in season 2, it's still 50s, and it's part of it is also kind of like, oh, look at how different things were back then, like how we're so modern now, and like attitudes now towards like sex and things like that are so different. But they jettison that. But like you do get like where Mrs. Cunningham says to tells Joni, "Oh, I don't want you watching Groucho because he's got too much innuendo on his show." Like Groucho's a little too.
It's Gabe Kaplan on the TV,
right? Yeah, that would be great.
Well, like you're even in season 2, like. You're right. I noticed there was like halfway through, Mrs. Cunningham her hair becomes 70s. Like,
I mean, I remember Richie leaving because Ron Howard goes off to have his whole directing career, and then he like comes back intermittently here. Like he goes away, and then it becomes like the Fonzie show, and you get like Ted McGinley coming in and stuff, and then Richie comes back to town, for like one episode or something, and the Fonz is trying to like, push him around a little, and like he beats up the Fonz. Like he gets in a fight with the Fonz, and like because like I think he joins the army, so he comes back and he's got kung fu. So the Fonz tries to pull something on it, and he like throws the Fonz onto a pool table, and I was shocked. Like when I was a kid, and I saw that was.
Shook your core.
Yeah, that was like finding out that Santa Claus isn't real. Like seeing Richie floor the Fonz,
Shit, like. Did the Fonz have a cereal like Urkelos? Was there ever a Fonzie like cereal?
A Fonz cereal, there had to be. Yeah, I mean, there was the Fonz Saturday morning cartoon. There was a Happy Days cartoon where they like traveled through time, and then there was the Laverne and Shirley cartoon where like they like merchandised that thing to death. But
I'm gonna track down some Fonz merch.
Yeah, we had the Fonz cup. And it was a prized possession, this Fonz cup.
Yeah, like Fonzios. Mm-hmm. They're like little leather jacket marshmallows. Little sharks.
I never, like, I never had the Fonz doll or anything, but I had the Mork doll, the
Amazing.
spin-off.
Hell
Seeing
yeah.
the Happy Days play set at the toy show.
It was amazing. I'm on a Happy Days binge right now. Thanks.
Well, like Happy Days was so like just everywhere, and it's it can be so cheesy and stupid and stuff. And so I kind of spent my whole life running away from Happy Days. And I've been away from it so long that now coming back to it, it's like,
give it to me.
Yeah, coming back home, and yet it's not like these things aren't cliches anymore. It was like every show was like that back then, but now it's like there's no shows like that.
Somebody needs to do sitcoms. Get back to basics. Like, they have to be too smart for their own good. You gotta have a camping episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Cheers camping.
Well, it was interesting that like for a little while the sitcom, like sort of the classic sitcom, started to have a little bit of a comeback. Like there was this little moment of like, oh, maybe the sitcom still got a little bit of juice left in it. But...
like the tone of the 80s ones, like I love Three's Company too.
Yes.
But they're doing like farce stuff.
Yeah, Three's Company is
like a Neil Simon kind of.
Well, it's like you went to like the
local theater
or like the local Pittsburgh improv troupe or whatever.
Yeah. People were running in and out of rooms and stuff.
It is like when they talk about like the early sitcoms were just like radio with pictures. Like that this feels like that,
But I want those 80s ones. Mm-hmm. Where it's like some misunderstanding and they keep running in and out of the room.
Yeah, Three's Company is another one that I kind of took for granted, and then now I just like love it. I remember when Three's Company was still like a show on regular TV. Like it was the very end of it. Like that's early 80s, and it's like Three's Company. It's like Suzanne Summers is long gone and all this stuff. And then it ends, and then I remember the night that Three's a Crowd premiered, when it turned into Three's a Crowd. Like I was there. I was alive.
John Ritter, like 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. Then they shortened that just 8 Simple Rules, and he was on that show when he passed away. Mm-hmm. But I was just talking about this, an underrated and lost version of that show. It's David Spade. So after John Ritter passed away,
David Spade became the dad or whatever, became the new character.
He was the uncle. He was the uncle. It was David Spade, and then James Garner appeared. It was fucking forgot. It was like they had great chemistry. I was like, it was amazing. So track down the.
I'll have to watch that. Yeah,
David Spade, James Gardner, 8 Simple Rules.
Yeah,
it was fucking awesome.
It was like I remember watching that show like the first, like before John Ritter died. I didn't really watch it much further than that. And like I guess James Garner was like the father-in-law. David Spade is John Ritter's brother, and then it's John Ritter's father-in-law is
they became this like amazing comedic duo.
Great.
It's good stuff. You should try to find that out.
The 80s and like the early 90s were like the height of my TV viewing. Like I was one of those kids who just like that's all I did was watch TV nonstop. So like I have a head full of all that kind of stuff. And then it starts to peter out after a couple seasons of Seinfeld. After a couple seasons of Seinfeld, I like stopped watching so much TV. And so like when Friends came on, I was no longer watching TV. So I missed the whole Friends
Same here.
thing. So
it was must-see TV. Remember when NBC's Thursday night lineup, it was the hottest ticket in town. Must-see TV.
Happy Days, the name says it all.
We love Happy Days.
And it's got layers of nostalgia. You're watching it for you're watching it for like 80s nostalgia as and then there's the 50s nostalgia built in, and the 70s nostalgia, and then your own nostalgia for like afternoons at your grandmother's house or something, and then the Happy Days Fonzie mug. I want to know what happened to that Fonzie mug. Like, where did that Fonzie mug end up? Like, it must maybe when we moved or something, it got thrown out.
I'm gonna look for a couple Fonzie mugs. Like,
I'll pull it up. I'll like flash the picture.
Yeah,
of the
I'd love to
Fonzie mug.
see it on there. And like,
it was a piece of shit. Like, it wasn't even like a nice mug. It was like one of those mugs where it's like plastic, and then like the outside's clear, and then like they just shove in a picture of Fonzie into the end. Like you could take that picture out and put anything else in there.
It's amazing, dude. Like McDonald's, like collectibles or like stuff you would buy at the store. That was like fine china to like. Yeah. I remember like drinking pop out of the Batman Returns or Batman Forever like crystal frosted mug.
Yeah, I bought the Batman Returns crystal frosted mug. And the Batman Forever one, the Batman Forever crystal frosted mug. I have that one.
The Batman Returns cups had those frisbees on top.
When my sister was born, like I was just little, and this was like the first time I ever went to a McDonald's. It was the Star Trek, like Star Trek the motion picture Happy Meal, which was like the first movie tie-in Happy Meal. But that's what I got, and I got the little Spock, the little Star Trek communicator where it's got like little pictures that you turn to. So that was
like the 70s haircuts emerging through. I was watching Paradise Alley with Stallone.
Yeah, and I gotta watch that because that's got like a Happy Days connection too, like a Henry Winkler connection.
Yeah, like Stallone's got that feathered hair. It's supposed to be like the 40s, and he's got his bouffant like haircut.
Well, that was like after Happy Days ran for a little bit. That was kind of the thing of like, wait, it's 1979, and you're telling me I can't go to Studio 54 with this like awesome hair. I have to get like a
pompadour.
I have to get a buzz cut or something and go into studio. No, fuck that. I'm growing it out and I'll like comb it back and tuck it in.
Yeah, he's like just got back from WW2 and he's like, they're like, were you in a warehouse where they were putting cocaine into the ceiling fan? And it's like draining down. There's always somebody that becomes too big for their britches, and then they don't think about how to look like down the road. There's always someone that fucking big times the whole operation. Then they're like, they disappear for a while. Like Jonathan Taylor Thomas on like the Tim Allen, whatever, with Home Improvement, or like Fox Mulder on the X-Files. Like they're like, he's just off the show.
Right, yeah.
Tom Bosley's like, he goes fucking Hollywood. He big times everybody.
Seeing Tom Bosley, it is kind of nostalgic for me because my dad at that time looked exactly like Tom Bosley. And when we were in Disney World, like, how like when people, they're like, some celebrity will be at Disneyland or something, and like be like, oh, there's, like, and when I was a kid and we went to Disney World, there were some people who thought my dad was Tom Bosley. Like, whoa, it's Tom Bosley. They weren't like fucking around like, oh, there's some guy who looks like Tom Bosley. Like, there's Tom Bosley. But yeah, my dad looked, so like watching this, it's like, oh yeah, that's what my dad used to look like.
He charges people for his autograph.
Yeah, and
makes
it's like,
a little walking around, makes them scratch. That's hilarious. Yeah. That's awesome, Tom.
My dad has been, in the 80s, he gets mistaken for Tom Bosley. And then in the 90s, he got mistaken for Jason Alexander.
Like at my family reunion, they'll like bust up on my dad because they're like, Jape and Jess. They look like Tony Orlando.
Yeah, I saw pictures. Your dad does look like Tony Orlando.
Yeah.
Happy Days, it's like, it's this nostalgia reduction. It's like nostalgia on top of nostalgia in like, it's like nostalgia tiramisu or something, like with nostalgia sauce
drizzled on top.
Yeah. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion. And all three of those books are available for pre-order in the show notes below, and they'll be coming real soon.
I can't wait. I'm Matt Zeoli.
And follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli, on Instagram at Tom_Scioli, and support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search Tom Scioli.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
We'll see you in the 50s. When I was a kid, we had, in my kindergarten, Happy Days was still a going show. They had 50s day at the school. So
that's awesome.
Everybody could show up for the 50s. And my next door neighbor, he was all decked out for like the 50s and stuff, had like, like a leather jacket or whatever. I had somehow not communicated to my mom that it was 50s day. And so, but we realized it, when we saw that the next door neighbor that he had his 50s outfit. So I didn't have any 50s thing ready to go. So my mom we improvised this thing. Like I wore a white t-shirt and then like rolled it up and put like a thing of candy cigarettes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And rolled it up. So we like improv'd a 50s
that's super
outfit
cool.
Real quick. Yeah.
That's great.
Have like a comb in your back pocket.
I always thought it was cool when they dipped like like
the comb,
dip
yeah.
the comb.
Well, yeah, like when Mutt dips it in the guy's
in
soda.
soda.